Here we go. Question number 2 from the town hall. So like we did before the actual question, I will read that. And then Victoria went first this time. And so I'll talk about her. Then we'll come back and I'll talk about me, and then you can watch me. So before we get started with this, I will say, just like in the last video, I did offer Victoria and her husband to attend a firearms class, a pistol class with me at Tactical Response in Camden, Tennessee, and for me to cover the tuition of the cost of the course, ammo as long as it's 9mm, and or use my blasters if she's not running 9mm, and the lodging up there. I still have not heard anything back yet. So yeah, that offer still stands. If you would like to take me up on it, all you gotta do is reach out. I did email the class schedule for the rest of the year to her. And also, if you're watching this, Victoria, you can, I'm sure, navigate to the website and see those classes as well. So that offer still stands. So to the question, and I pay attention is kind of, I'm doing a little more of this, to how this question is actually set up and then phrased. So here's the setup. And this one, just exactly how it came to me on the email, was number 2, tariffs and trade. Tennessee's farmers and small manufacturers have felt real pain from recent tariff decisions. What's your view on U.S. trade policy, and how would you protect rural economies like ours? So like I said, the setup, saying that they have felt real pain from the tariffs. So like I said, on this one, she went first, so let's talk about her comments first, or just kind of, I'll tell you about my kind of takeaways from that. And you let me know your takeaways if you see something, you agree, you disagree, or you see something additional, and or whatever you want to comment on. So as she starts talking, which is your views. So her fun fact, and goes into the list of stuff about her, what she's done. So, and relates it back to 2017 with tariffs. And so she's already predisposed, I guess, to not liking tariffs. And if we look back at our history a little bit, that's how the federal government used to fund itself to begin with. So there's that. And basically what it comes down to is she does not like Trump's method. She doesn't like how he's doing it. She references Theodore Roosevelt, who, by the way, was a Republican, although self-admittedly he was progressive. But talking about speak softly but carry a big stick. I see, where has that gotten us? And she talks about how they're not coming back to the table. Well, we've had a couple weeks since then, but even at that point of that conversation, that town hall on the 29th, countries were already lining up to make deals with us. So the tariffs, and not even talking about the revenue that those tariffs had generated up to that point and continue to generate for the government. So, you know what we had been doing was not working for us, for the American citizen. And she talks about free trade, but yeah, let's not put our own selves at risk. Although I guess it does kind of tie into her belief system that we should be taking care of the nation, and maybe a look at history and why we started doing this. And it was at the end of World War II, we put ourselves at a disadvantage because our production was ramped up so much, and we were taking the hit. But times have changed, and we have got to adjust to it. So yeah, it talks about that. And like I said, that's what's created our trade imbalances is we keep thinking it's on us to make sure everybody else is okay and to buy all their stuff. So what do we do? Well, let's just keep it coming in. So then she talks also about bringing the federal dollars to Tennessee, which let's talk about this for just a minute. where do these federal dollars come from? Well, I'm glad you asked. They come from us paying taxes, and the revenues approached, and whatever the federal government, wherever it takes it from, gathers it all up and then distributes it back out. So what we're saying is we want to redistribute the wealth from the other states and bring it to here in Tennessee. So that's what we're looking to redistribute the wealth from the rest of the nation to here to Tennessee. Well, as it turns out, that is really not a function of the government. And let's go to the Constitution for this. And I am in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. And it gets to the part here. And this is, the Congress shall have the power to, and it goes to our list. And this spot says to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. So the function is to regulate that trade, not to redistribute dollars from other states. It is to, and the whole setup of that was, so here in Tennessee, we can't, lay a bunch of tariffs and imposts and duties on other states when they're bringing stuff in. So it was to keep it balanced throughout the states, and then we can push that further, same deal, so that we are not being taken advantage of here in Tennessee, and that, and throughout the nation. So it's up to us to regulate that trade, but it's not up to us as representatives to bring this money into the country, or into the state rather. The job of the representative is to represent our interests in protecting us from the federal government, to make sure we're operating within, that the federal government is operating within the scope and the limits placed on it by the Constitution. So yeah, that's, and to think that, our small business manufacturers and our farmers are unable to navigate this is just very, very disingenuous. I truly believe in us as Americans, as pioneers, and in the get it done attitude that founded this nation and built us to the position that we are now. So, not the job to bring federal dollars here. The job is to represent us in Washington, D.C., and keep the government in its place. So just imagine, if you will, that we get the federal government operating the way it's supposed to be, get them out of our pockets, out of our houses, and we keep our own money here in Tennessee. We feed it to the federal government what it needs to do its functions, serve its functions, but no more. And in fact, go back to the writings of our founders, and if you look into George Washington's farewell address, he talks about some of this stuff. So that's coming from the executive branch, but that's more our function, is to be a block between the federal government and the states and we the people, our individual lives, and it's up to us to manage that. And again, we do have to pay attention. There have been times where the large companies have gotten out of hand, and we've had to take some measures. But by and large, it's up to us just to get out of everybody's way and let them succeed or fail on their own merit. So that's kind of where I am on hers. The notes I saw off of that, and so there we go. You can take a pause here. Like I said, drop the comments, do the things, but we'll let you watch my comments, and then we'll come back and take a look at those.
Okay, the next question I'll address to Victoria first, and then Tom. This is about tariffs and trade. Tennessee's farmers and small manufacturers have felt real pain from recent tariff decisions or indecisions. What's your view on U.S. trade policy, and how would you protect rural economies like we have in Tennessee's 4th Congressional District?
Cool. So, fun fact, I worked in international and domestic logistics for 5 years of my life. I actually felt these trade policies and what they can do to small businesses here in the United States. And I was at 2 different companies, one in Texas, in Dallas, while I worked in the tile and stone industry. I imported and was responsible for all the logistics coming out of China, India, Italy, Spain, and I think there was one more. There might be one. No, it's 4. So I had to do that. And when the tariffs were put in place in 2017, I watched what happened in my small industry, who housed all the, we helped provide that tile you go down to the Lowe's and pick up, your local tile company. We watched that happen. What happened is we had $3.5 million worth of product sitting on the water that we had to figure out what we were going to do because it was under contract with a bigger corporation that could take the hit if they lost the money. We couldn't. We couldn't pay those extra tariffs. So I don't agree with tariffs. Do I believe that we need fair trade? Absolutely I do. Do I believe that we need it to look responsible? Yes, I do. But I also agree with Teddy Roosevelt. We don't need to do it blustering and yelling at and threatening and coming up with nicknames like Taco. What we need is to speak softly and carry a big stick. That is what we've done for years, and it has worked. Blustering and yelling and waving your hands and screaming on Temu Twitter does not work. So what we should do is make sure that we're working with those industries and bringing that here, not losing trade agreements, because our district is agricultural. Our district suffers when the soybeans don't get purchased by China. So we need to make sure that that's not happening. And the way we do that is not pissing off all the people who buy that. It's talking to them, getting the best options and the deals that bring that federal funding here so we can continue growing that, because our farmers deserve better. They deserve a representative who's bringing federal dollars home to them to better their businesses and not just giving it to big agriculture.
Here we go. Let's talk about me now. So you already heard the question. I will read my written response. We will talk. I'll talk a little bit about my actual response on the video, and then you can watch that clip of me. And again, your own take on it. Do you think I answered the question? Are you satisfied with my answer to it? And I'll go a little bit more into it. So here is my answer covering the tariffs and trade. I'm all in with the tariffs, and since Congress abdicated its responsibility to the executive branch, I am willing to ride it out and see how it goes. We have been getting the short end of the stick with these trade agreements for far too long, and we are overdue to renegotiate. The farmers that I have talked to are good with the tariffs. Beef prices are up, which is good for them. I'm sure this isn't the case for everyone, but in the long term, we will all be better off. I also believe in the ability of citizens of our great republic to adapt and endure for a better tomorrow. Personally, I already do as much local shopping as I can. I currently spend the bulk of my grocery budget at places like the Butcher on Main, the Rockcliffe Market, and the Four Corners Market, as well as the farmers markets. So that was what I had written down. What I actually said was fairly close to that, but I'll talk a little bit more about it. And like I said, I'll put the clip here at the end of it, and you check it out for yourself and make up your own mind, drop the comments and the shares and the likes, and do all the things. And so I still got most of that in there in the clip. As you'll see, I failed to talk about shopping at the local markets. And I post that stuff on Facebook, and it goes to Instagram, whatever, but try to spread the word about the local places that I shop, just especially since Rockcliffe has been there for a little bit longer. I think we might be on 2 years for those guys. Butcher on Main, same thing. I'm not sure if we've hit a year with them yet, but I'll try and do check-ins and just to raise awareness. And yeah, let's shop local. We rail against the big corporations, but where do the vast majority of us go to shop and get our meats? At the big chain stores. We go to Walmart, we go to Kroger or Piggly Wiggly, depending on where you are. And so, but yet we continue to complain about the mom and pop shops going out of business. Well, how do we fix that? That's where we shop. So
and just bring awareness to it. Let folks know that these places are out there. And and like I said, and I'll probably talk about this a little bit more as we go too, but we have this mindset problem going around. We have been conditioned over a lot of years to believe that it's the federal government's job to do a lot of things for us that they've got no business doing. So much so now that I mean, even the doggone judicial branch will jump in and try and you know say, yeah, you have to do this or you can't do that to the executive branch, which and that's a whole nother video. This misconception about the co-equal branches. I mean, by definition, they can't be co-equal. They do different things. Anyway, back to this. So, yeah, and then when we get into these things that the federal government shouldn't be doing, they're either barely adequate or subpar or completely off the rails. And it's just as a couple examples I will give you. The first one is FEMA. Just take a look at the responses, and nothing on those guys. I'm sure that the work there, but it's just a horrible bureaucracy, and so you got layers to get to the folks that need it. Just take a look objectively, compare responses, local responses, and just recently to Hurricane Helene. Whose response was better? Those on the ground and the surrounding states getting supplies and getting relief in there, or the federal government? I was out there. The federal government was doing its best to get in the way. So FEMA as an example, and then the Department of Education, same deal. How are we better off for having a Department of Education? We are not. So just as two examples of what they should be doing, and really that was the short response. I'm not trying to drag this stuff out. I knew what I was going into there, and so my position was to let folks know how I stand, and this is my belief. And like I said, as a representative, it's your job to protect the citizens in the district from the federal government. So, like I said, process this stuff and consider and contemplate that how it would look if we got the federal government out of our business or away from business that they're not supposed to be in. They do their thing. We do ours at the state and then at the local level, and it's the pursuit of happiness. There's no guarantees. So, like I said, I don't know as we press into this, what that looks like. And don't get me wrong, we can't just go in there and start just gutting all this stuff, because we have created a dependency on the federal government, and it's unhealthy. This is an abusive relationship that we're in. To an extent, as an analogy for it. And I mean, dealing with what we have, we can't just yoink this stuff from people that we're used to it. It needs to be phased, sunsetted, however. And then in some cases, yeah, just done deal. So, like I said, I appreciate you. You made the whole thing awesome. Watch this last little clip. You can see how I looked, or what my responses were on the stage, and how well they matched up, and tell me what you think. So until the next one, keep your powder dry.
Would you like for me to repeat the question?
No, this is tariffs.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
I am all in on the tariffs. Congress has abdicated their responsibility to the executive branch. So let's let the executive branch do the thing until we get back to the Constitution and the U.S. House and the Senate are performing their function with the tariffs. We've been doing it for a very long time this way, and it is not good for us, the Americans. We've lost factories. We're losing it all. So I'm in. Let's ride it out, relax a little bit, and see where it goes. Now, the farmers that I have talked to in the district have felt no impact. In fact, one of them has said that it's good because the beef prices have gone up. I also believe in the resilience of the American people to adapt and overcome and adjust to the varying conditions and make it happen. That is the history that we have in this nation. So for right now, I say let it go, let it ride out, and see the way it works. We know where it's been in the past. And where it's been in the past, is losing business from this country and pushing it all overseas. So that is my stance on tariffs. Thank you.